Now, the next one that I saw, I actually watched it right after Jackass, so what a back-to-back. But I watched Moonfall this weekend, and it really was not what I was expecting. Now, that doesn't mean anything bad. It was different than what I was anticipating it to be. Like I said, that doesn't mean that there was anything at all wrong with it. But I'm going to kind of run through something here, and it's maybe going to sound a little bit unusual, I guess is a good way of putting it. But bear with me as I go through this. If you've ever seen these other movies, imagine if they combined all of these into one movie. Mind you, I am going to explain a little bit more beyond that. But imagine if you took the stories of Star Trek, Abyss, Armageddon, 2012, Deep Impact, The Core, The Day After Tomorrow, Twister, Contact, Arrival, Interstellar, Star Wars, and Independence Day. Now imagine if you combined all of those into one movie. If that blows your mind as much as it did for me, you will understand why I was just like, this one was a true wow moment for me. Now back to Moonfall. Again, my apologies on that. This one is it's basically about this whole idea that the moon is not actually an orbital type separate thing that just made out of like dirt and rock and basically like the Earth is. It's just a smaller version of it that's orbiting around us. No, this whole story focuses on the fact that the moon is a megastructure built by aliens, and that it actually has a purpose to being in orbit around the planet the way it does and everything. And this AI thing that's in the moon, AI, artificial intelligence, has gained sentience, and it attacks a space shuttle and its crew while in space. Well, when they get back to Earth and they're trying to explain it, of course, everybody thinks they're crazy. And so it discredits a lot of their work, and just everything kind of just goes on. But there's some secret things going on still in the military, because they're aware that there's something going on, but of course they don't want it to get out to the public. And kind of as this all carries on, well, this thing actually causes another problem, and through a probe that is actually sent to check it out, they send this probe into the moon through a hole in, I'm trying to find where I put it in the note, what's the name of the crater that they used. Like I said, I'm always making notes, but it's a hole in the crater of Mare, Crisium. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that, so I'm really bad about that. But in this one, so they send this probe in and they realize that there's more to this. And so when everything kind of starts going crazy, the moon is coming closer to Earth. And in this whole thing, it looks like the moon's actually going to collide with Earth. And so they're trying to figure out something to do to stop this, because if the moon comes and collides with their planet, I mean, everybody's going to be dead. And as it gets closer to the planet, the tides change and weather stuff changes and gravity changes and everything just kind of goes wacky. Mind you, this is a science fiction movie, so it's supposed to be exaggerated heavily, but it's very well done in the way it's put together. And naturally, as we're aware, all of the space shuttles have been retired. And in this one of them gets brought back to life, but not before it's almost too late. And it may even be too late with what they're doing. Of course, I'm not going to give the ending away on that. But let's just say the ending won't be what you expect it to be for that. And as all this is happening, and they're talking about the biggest cover-up in history, and just the whole idea of organic matter and electronic environment and what can be used to fight that. And like I said, it gets really deep, and I'm trying not to give away too much of the story. If you like sci-fi, if you liked or do any of the movies that I listed in all of that, and if you can even imagine them all being put together in one, this one is going to probably wow you and scare you at the same time. there was one bit of information, and mind you, it's a little bit skewed in this one, but I actually looked it up because I was like, okay, this is just, it sounds too unusual to be true. And how close this is to the truth is a little freaky. But the only reason that we have solar eclipses, and I'm not just making this up on this, it's a quote in the movie, and like I said, I looked this up after the movie. But the only reason that we actually have solar eclipses is because the moon is 400 times smaller than the sun, and that it is 400 times, okay, hold on, I'm reading that wrong. The moon is 400 times smaller than the sun and 400 times closer to the earth. Now, if you think about that, like I said, my husband and I both actually ran the numbers on this. And like I said, it's not exactly 400, but it is close enough to that basically, so for those that didn't understand the way I was just explaining that you figure the size of the moon and the size of the sun, and the moon is 400 times smaller. So, I mean, that's a huge number. And then the whole thing that the distance from the moon to the earth is 400 times smaller than the distance from the earth to the sun, to kind of explain that a little bit better. And like I said, it's not exact, because it's actually something like the moon is 396 times smaller than the sun or something like that. And then it's like 391 times closer to the earth, or more of the exact numbers, and that's still even not exact, but it's close on that. It was just a really interesting little tidbit of information that sounded completely made up in the movie, but I'm really glad it wasn't. And on Moonfall, I did give this a score of a 6.75 out of 10 on the deputy scale, just because, even though it's not a new idea at all, I mean, just considering it's kind of a mashup of all those other movies, but just the way it was done kind of kept you focused throughout the movie. There wasn't a lot of boring content, or just the kind of content that just made you go, ugh, anywhere really along it. Mind you, there were some errors and stuff, and there's a lot of errors in the science. So if you're looking for something historically accurate, this is not going to be the one for you. But if you're looking for one just to have fun with, cute date movie, just a fun, just interesting movie that's definitely going to create a lot of discussion. I guess it maybe not be intelligent discussion, but more the whole conspiracy theories. But remember, it's not a conspiracy theory if it's true. Not saying that this is by any means, but that's kind of the whole idea behind it. And so we'll just kind of have to wait and see how that goes. I don't think this is going to be like a big box office, in your face best movie. No, not even close. But this is going to be one that'll definitely have favorites with.